Hey, sports fans, this is Mr. Albinetti coming at you to talk about the SAT. You'll remember last week I talked about Khan Academy, a great place to study free for the SAT. Great tool. This week, I'm not talking about the Khan Academy. I'm talking about one particular section of the SAT. There are 4 sections to the test plus the essay. First section, you see it in front of you. It's the reading test, 65 minutes, 52 questions, reading comprehension. Second section, also a reading test, but this one tests grammar, usage, style, not reading comprehension per se. It's a shorter test. Third section, math test, no calculator, 25 minutes, 20 questions. Fourth test, also math, but you can use a calculator here. It's a longer test, 55 minutes, 38 questions. Like I said, today I'm just going to give you advice about one section of the SAT, the reading test, the reading comprehension section. So this is what it looks like. Here's my advice. First, keep these thoughts in mind. You get 5 passages. With 65 minutes total, that means you have about 13 minutes per passage, approximately. You get 10 to 11 questions per passage. Do not spend too much time on one passage. If you find yourself working for 20 minutes on a passage, move on. That's just too much time. Reason being, every question is worth the same amount of points. The easy questions give you the same number of points as the hard questions. So, if you spend too much time on the toughest passage, you're going to drain your time and you won't be able to answer questions on the easier passages. So, that's the basics about section 1. Let me give you a few tips and tricks. First, read the first 3 questions first. Let me just show you what I mean instead of just talking at you. So we have our reading test, right? Here are the directions, but here's the passage. More passage, and now we have the questions. Instead of starting with the passage, I recommend that students read the first 3 questions. Don't worry about reading all the answer choices. That's just too much information to keep in your brain. Just read the question. Just read the question. Just read the question. If you read the first 3 questions, then you know what to look for as you read the passage. So for instance, this first question says, which choice best describes what happens in the passage? It's basically a summary question, so we know we're going to have to summarize the passage. The second question, which choice best describes the developmental pattern of the passage? Well, this is asking about organization, so we need to keep a mind on a summary of the passage and on organization. Third question, these are interesting. As used in line 1 and 65, directly most nearly means what? Now you can gain some extra, not points, but you can use this tip to help you answer these types of questions. Whenever you encounter this question, it's a vocab question. Circle the word in the passage. It says it's used in line 1 and 65. I'm close to 65, so I'm going to go straight there. There's the word directly, right? Directly, directly. I can't circle, so I'm going to highlight. I highlight the word, and when I encounter it in the passage, I know that I'm going to have to define it, so I might as well just write a word above it. Like when I encounter directly, if I think it means something else, just write a word above it that's a synonym of directly, and that'll help me choose which of these 4 options is the best description of this directly in the passage. After you've read the first 3 questions, now look through the questions to see if there are any others like these vocabulary questions. Question 4 is not. Question 5 is not. 6, 7, 8. Oh, it looks like 8 is another vocabulary question. As used in line 2, form most nearly means what? I'm going to go to line 2, and I'm going to circle the word form. Well, I'm going to highlight it. You circle it. That way you know you're going to have to define the word anyway. You might as well be aware of it in the passage. So we've done all that. Next, you want to read this introduction. Read the introduction before you read the passage. The introduction helps because it tells you some useful information. First, it tells you what kind of passage you're going to encounter. You're going to get either a literature or a history or a social studies or a science passage. The introduction will give you a hint as to what kind you're going to get. This one suggests to me that this is a literature passage, which it turns out it is. Also, it tells you how old the passage is. So this passage you see was written in 1999. That means it's going to have language that I probably understand. The toughest passages from the SAT usually are older ones. They'll include one old passage per test. So of the 5 passages, one will be from, I don't know, the 1700s, the 1800s, maybe the early 1900s. So once you see 1776, you know that you're going to encounter a passage with some difficult language. Just get your brain ready. Okay, we've read the first 3 questions. We've looked for vocabulary questions and we've circled the vocab words. We've read the introduction. Now it's just time to read the passage. Read it with a pencil in your hand so that you can take a few notes. Don't take many because you don't have a lot of time, but underline on occasion. Write one word off to the side on occasion. Don't write too much though, because again, you don't want to waste time. I know there's one more piece of advice and I'm forgetting it. Haha, I remember it now. Yes, there are certain question types that you can hack, as they say. Question type 9 and 10. So question 9, it asks a pretty simple question. Why does Akira say his meeting with Che is a matter of urgency? Line 32, you answer the question. And then line 10, you've encountered this before on iStep, says, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Let's say you were stuck on question 9. You just didn't know the answer. Often you can answer question 10 first. It's weird. It's unintuitive, but it works sometimes. So sometimes you answer the evidence side of the question first, and it'll help you answer the previous question. That doesn't always work, but it's a tip that works sometimes. Anyways, let me review. Let me recap. So my advice, read the first 3 questions first. Look for vocabulary questions and circle the vocab word in the passage. Read the introduction because it's going to tell you, do you have a literature passage or a science passage? And then it'll tell you the age of the passage. Is it current or is it older? Then read the passage. Underline, take a few notes, but don't take too many. You don't have a lot of time. And then finally, for evidence questions, sometimes the second question helps you answer the first one. This is Mr. Albinetti just giving you some SAT advice. Have a wonderful day out there, Tigers.